Hello and welcome to Mindshare TV. I'm your host, Robert Martellacci. Our mission is to spotlight the people and ideas shaping the future of learning and EdTech. My guest today is Olli Vallo, the EdTech for Good Strategist at UNICEF's Global Learning Innovation Hub. He brings deep experience from the Education Alliance in Finland, evaluating pedagogical quality of learning tools. Olli, great to have you on our show this morning. Your afternoon. Talk to me about the opportunity that you've embraced, a really cool new title. What does the role actually encompass in UNICEF's Global Learning Innovation Hub, and what are your top priorities for the next 12 months?
Yeah, well, thanks, Robert. Great to be here, and thanks for the invitation. So my role at the UNICEF Learning Innovation Hub, the hub is based here in Helsinki, Finland. We have this EdTech for Good initiative, and in the EdTech for Good initiative, my responsibility is an EdTech catalog repository called Learning Cabinet. So basically, my responsibility together with the team is to find and evaluate EdTech tools, high quality EdTech tools, and place them to be part of the Learning Cabinet EdTech catalog. To put it short, that's what we do.
Thank you for that. And let's unpack that a little more. And how was your previous role in Finland inspirational to you coming into this role?
Yeah, sure. The pathway is now in retrospect is somewhat logical. So I co-founded Education Alliance Finland in 2015. I guess we were one of the first organizations that developed a criteria for evaluating the quality of EdTech tools. We conducted evaluations focusing on the pedagogical quality of the tools. We evaluated hundreds of EdTech solutions, and the evaluators were all Finnish teachers. We developed the criteria together with the University of Helsinki and so on. Then after a few years, I started working at the Asian Development Bank as a consultant. By the time ADB was developing a quality criteria for EdTech solutions. So they had Education Alliance Finland's criteria as one of their references. So I had an opportunity to join their team and develop the quality criteria for them. That criteria was called GESA with Q. And when I was working there as a consultant, I got to know the people who were starting the UNICEF office here in Helsinki. And then they started sparring us with our work. And because they knew that UNICEF is going to develop their own criteria, they started using the ADB criteria as a baseline for their work. And that's how I eventually joined the UNICEF team.
So are you based now in Helsinki?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. So UNICEF's EdTech for Good framework, I'm sharing your website, is becoming a common reference point for quality. For an educator or founder hearing about this for the first time, particularly in North America, how does it work? What dimensions determine whether a product is for good and not just good marketing?
Yeah, sure. So we have 5 different focus areas when we evaluate EdTech solutions. First, we look into the safety, and goes without saying that for UNICEF and being a children's organization and so on, we don't want to take any risks when it comes to the safety of the users. So we look at the privacy policies, how if the solutions collect learner data or user data, and how it's handled and so on. Then the second aspect focuses on the impact on learning. So basically, we ask the solution provider to provide us any documentation of their theory of change and any research evidence that they might have, proving that the efficacy of the solution. So that's that part. Then designed for children, like you see on the screen, that focuses on how the application actually works. So how is the pedagogical design, how the content is delivered, if it has content, and so on. UX is one part of that evaluation as well. Then ready to reach all. It means that the solution needs to be scalable. We look into the aspects such as, does it work offline, and how well it works in a like a low resource context, and so on. And then the fifth focus area focuses mainly on accessibility. So does the solution work also with students with if they have some limitations or disabilities, and so on. So, but those are the five different areas, and you can download the whole framework from our website, and there will be actually an update. So while we are utilizing the framework, we are also continuously improving it. So we will launch a new version of the framework, updated version, during the Digital Learning Week at the beginning of September.
Fascinating. Is your goal to scale this internationally as well?
Yeah. So at the moment, when we get approached by the companies asking would it be worthwhile to apply to be listed in the Learning Cabinet, what I try to tell them is that if you want to get feedback, if you're ready to have your solution evaluated, even if you might not be sure or confident that you will eventually be listed, but if you want to get the feedback, you should apply. And just the process that you go through the criteria and so on might be very beneficial for you to back up your support your product development. With that idea in mind, we want to work with accelerators and different EdTech consortiums, just to spread the word and bring this to the criteria to the knowledge of EdTech companies.
Well, we're happy to work with you at EdTech Canada, because we have some 400 plus EdTechs here in Canada that are based here. And what's interesting is a lot of these startups, are passionate founders, don't have a pedagogical background, and a lot of them stumble for a year or so to figure this out, because it is a process. You need to understand tech-infused pedagogy. So what are some of the common gaps that you see in terms of product pedagogy or operations from some of these companies that hold them back and don't make them relevant?
Well, this comes now from a perspective of few years. I'm sure that companies have evolved, for example, from the times when we started evaluating solutions with the Education Alliance Finland. But back then, I think one common gap was that the solution didn't have a proper curriculum alignment. So you might see excellent code learning solutions or math learning solutions or language learning solutions, but they were developed more from the global perspective, that they were pretty good for everyone, but not 100% aligned with specific curricula. And that was one of the things I remember that was maybe a piece of advice for solution creators, that if you target to the whatever market it is, if it's Canadian market or Finnish market, make sure that your product aligns with the local curriculum. But yeah, that's one aspect. Of course, it really depends on what type of products it is. So generally, I think the product market fit, you can only find it when you do something, you publish it, you start to get the first users, and then you iterate and improve over time.
Thanks so much for that. So the framework was co-developed with partners like Finland's MFA, ARM, and the Asian Development Bank. Why are these cross-sector partnerships essential, and how can education systems or companies plug in meaningfully?
Yeah, well, these different partners, they had a little bit different roles along the way. So first of all, Asian Development Bank had developed a quality criteria of their own, and that was used as a baseline when we started developing the EdTech for Good framework at UNICEF. So that was pretty much their role, of course, sharing a lot of insights and best practices along the way. Then ARM, which is a big microchips company from Ireland, they had a lot of expertise when it comes to data privacy and security. So they were working as advisors for the team developing the framework. Then Finland's MFA, they are funding partner. So that's very important role. Of course, they are experts in and they have really good contacts with the Finnish National Agency for Education that we have worked a little bit together when developing the framework and so on. So they have had this kind of funding partner role, which is very critical, but also a little bit more like operational when it comes to the knowledge in education.
Fascinating. Talk to me about Blue Unicorn path to scale. What distinguishes a promising tool from one ready to for multi-country deployment, and what support does the portfolio provide along that journey?
Yeah. Well, I can start off from like if you're an EdTech developer and you get listed in the learning cabinet. You go through the review process, you eventually have your solution listed in the cabinet. You're already long listed to be part of the Blue Unicorn portfolio. By the time you get listed to Learning Cabinet, then you're long listed for the Blue Unicorn portfolio. Now, at the moment, we have 6 partner countries, or I can throw you the list. It's Egypt, Ghana, Malaysia, Uzbekistan, and Zimbabwe, and Rwanda. So if any of these countries starts working with UNICEF to improve their education system, and they want to improve it through the use of EdTech, the first place where the country office and the education decision makers in that partner country will go to when they start selecting a solution, they go to the Learning Cabinet. If they get interested, some specific, let's say they get interested in Rwanda, they get interested in math learning platform that they find from Learning Cabinet, then they make an agreement so that UNICEF works a little bit like a middleman there, so that UNICEF gives funding for the first pilots in the country. UNICEF also hires researchers to collect data of the usage of the solution and how well does the implementation work and what are the learning outcomes that are actually caused by the use of the solution. And then that's like a promising stage of a promising solution. If all goes well, if the research shows that the learning outcomes have been improved, then it goes to the model for scale stage, and then it's already piloted with a bigger group of schools and the sort of the ultimate goal over time is to do like a nationwide implementation of the solution. And all the way UNICEF is working as a funding partner to implement and scale up the solution in the country.
Fascinating. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about AI. Today we're hosting our C21 Canada AI Summer Institute Task Force. And envisioning what's next. We're one of the few countries in the world, there's about a dozen countries who have collaborated nationally. How does AI come into the equation, and what is your hope for AI in education? Because there's a lot of complexity. Sustainability is a challenge in deploying some of these free apps that aren't necessarily going to be free for long. What have you seen in terms of use cases that are successful where it's actually being deployed?
Yeah, well, at the moment we ask when we ask for the documentation from the EdTech developers for the review, we ask them that do you use AI in your product? How do you use? What kind of guardrails you have, and so on. So that's the sort of like an immediate thing that we always need to deal with. It really depends case by case. I could say that pretty much all the companies say that, yeah, we use AI. When we start asking more questions, how do you use AI? It might be that the CEO or the founder says that, well, actually, I'm not so sure. Let me ask. And then they might come back to us saying that, well, actually, we don't use it that much. It's only like correcting words in the search field, or something like this. But nevertheless, it looks like everybody is utilizing AI one way or another nowadays. For us, it's important to understand that they use it in safe ways, so that there are some guardrails. We need to understand how the data sets are trained and so on. Then one phenomenon that I've just recently seen, just over the few months, those companies that maybe traditionally have been LMS providers or this kind of learning tool providers, it looks like that many of those companies also nowadays, they offer, through the use of AI, they offer the user a possibility to create content, or they have started creating content with AI that they deliver through their platform. So this kind of learning tool providers have become also content providers. That's one thing that I've noticed just recently.
Fascinating. 2030 vision. If we're successful, what will EdTech for good mean to a child, a teacher, and a policymaker by 2030, which is not far off, literally 5 years away? And what's the one risk that could derail that vision?
Yeah. Well, personally, I think we probably will focus on the decision maker level by 2030. What I'd really like to see by that time is that we have a very concise, easy to understand, high quality EdTech catalog up and running on Learning Cabinet, where decision makers, especially in developing countries, could rely and trust that, okay, we want to implement new EdTech tools in our country. Learning Cabinet is the place where we go to take a look at that. From the EdTech provider's point of view, I would love a Learning Cabinet to become like an evidence portfolio place for EdTech companies. What I see at the moment, many EdTech companies who have conducted a lot of research around the efficacy of their solution, they usually don't post that as a first thing that you would see when you go to their website. So it would be great if EdTech companies would start adding a link to their website saying that if you want to learn more about our efficacy and check out our efficacy portfolio, go to Learning Cabinet, find us there. And we could pull information from all different sources that gives evidence on the efficacy of the solution, and have all that information in Learning Cabinet.
Thank you for that. Final thoughts to share before we wrap this up, Olli Vallo.
It's of course we have this application call ongoing at the moment. So if there are any listeners who run an EdTech company, I would strongly encourage you to go to learningcabinet.org and submit the application. It only takes a few minutes when you go through the quick assessment. And then if we see that, okay, this solution is looks very promising, we will get back to you and suggest to go to the full assessment. That takes already a few hours to go through, but still it's not too much work, and the benefits can be really good if you pass through and be listed in the Learning Cabinet.
With that, that's a wrap for Mindshare TV. Huge thanks to Olli Vallo, newly appointed EdTech for Good Strategist at UNICEF's Learning Innovation Office, for a powerful look at evidence, AI, and equity at scale. If today sparked an idea, drop a comment, like, and subscribe. Links to UNICEF resources and Global Evidence EdTech Survey are in this description. For more conversations like this and updates on our Canadian EdTech Leadership Summit, follow Mindshare Learning on LinkedIn and X. I'm your host, Robert Martellacci. Stay curious, stay human, centered, and keep the learning curve steep. And that's a wrap.
Thanks, Robert.